Movie Wars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Movie Wars podcast. Woo! I got my buddies back here again. I'm all your nightmares rolled up into one. I'm Kyle.
I'm Seth.
I'm Drew. Insert movie quote here.
I wrote down a few you could have. These were the worst ones I saw. I'll be seeing you, Sugar Plum. We're going to celebrate Christmas a little bit early this year. And fuck you, Bird Dick.
That's mine. I call it.
Spider Monkey is a fucking crispy critter.
Oh my God. And Spider Monkey just instantly, we killed you. You remember how like the last one, it took T-Bird, that was part of the drama. He was like, he kind of slowly realized it. Spider Monkey's like, hey, we killed you instantly. It's like,
Yeah.
give
Everyone
it a
knows.
minute.
Yeah.
Give it a minute.
I mean, I don't know. If I was in his circumstance, that might be the first thing I'd say too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think my favorite quote from the whole movie was, pain is my power.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God. Everything was so telegraphed.
I have so many thoughts on this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Yeah. Let's,
Like, to be honest, if no one realized how fucked up Harvey Weinstein is before this movie should have tipped everybody off.
Yeah.
Because he took the idea of the first movie and was just like, what if we made it more BDSM?
Yeah.
Like, let's just get more tits, more black wax poured all over people.
Yeah.
Like, let's go all the way. Let's put all of my fetishes in there.
listen,
Yeah.
tits and black wax aside, it was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
So bad.
It was so like,
Yeah.
it was like they were like, let's do The Crow as if a fifth grader just watched it and was wanting to make his own story.
Yeah.
And then he just basically rewrites The Crow,
Yeah.
but not as good.
Basically, anytime some film snob and you know them, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, Weinstein discovered and nurtured Tarantino's career. It's like, but he made City of Angels.
Literally, though.
What are we going to do about that? That's what got him in prison.
You know,
Yes, his name's on Lord of the Rings, but
Hey,
City of Angels.
what if like he just had a busy week and the script was due and like I don't know, maybe there's some family stuff, maybe he had another project he was working on, and like if we knew his side, like maybe he's like, look, I was already working 60 hours. I did what I could.
Yeah.
I had a deadline.
That was a favor for a friend, for a bird.
I lost a bet, and so
Well, I'll kick off with this. So when I look at sequels, I have a couple of different methods for assessing. I think time and context is always the most important for
Absolutely.
any movie.
Yeah.
Judging a movie by today's standard that was made in 1973 is going to be weird. It's not that you can't call out maybe the less progressive ideals or whatever it is, but respecting it for what it was when it was made is important.
Absolutely.
So that's part of it. But also James Cameron has this idea, and he talks about this in the T2 and Aliens 2 and those sequels, that the sequel should stand on its own.
Yeah.
Like you should not have to see any other movie in the franchise to enjoy the movie. And I think that's interesting. I don't necessarily think that's the truth, but I do think there's an element that you do want to make it that good.
To me, I think it depends on whether or not it's a sequel or part 2.
yeah.
Because
Yes.
if it's like, great example, Lord of the Rings, I will always bring anything back to Lord of the Rings if I can. Lord of the Rings, to me, is one 11.5-hour long movie put into 3 volumes.
Yes.
That's a part 1, part 2, part 3. Versus Alien, Aliens, Alien 3. Those are each their own. Yes, they're continuing a broader story, but they should start and end as if it's going to be the only entry into that part of the franchise.
I like knowing that people go into directing sequels like that and having that knowledge there that some people are like, it should stand alone. I don't know if I agree with that though. Like I think it should stand alone in that it's as just as good of a movie. Like forced sequels are a thing and we don't like those.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I'm watching The Crow Part 2, I want it to be connected to The Crow Part 1 because
Right.
I watched The Crow Part 1 and
Yeah.
I thought this was so good. Let me watch Part 2. In this movie, like at no point does anyone be like, remember when this happened a couple years ago?
Yeah.
It's just I'm trying to conserve my thoughts because I'm trying to keep 2 and 3 separate.
Yeah.
But like I feel like sequels should build on each other, and then as a result, like the bad situation should always be escalated.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like right. So, and honestly, the ending of this movie, like when the bad guy got the crow powers, like I was like, okay, cool, this is something bigger than last time. Like
They just fucking
He didn't do
threw
much.
it away.
I was like, we should have gotten here sooner. This is
Their choice to dip into the ethereal randomly, really like the crow blowing up the palm trees where it flew by. It was like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, what coked out night did you guys write that?
Suddenly there's like 1,000 crows, and it's like, oh wait, then why did the one crow matter?
Yeah.
I was so at that point I was so like done with this movie. I pointed to my TV screen and I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And somehow 2 years later, the CGI is worse. It's somehow
so
worse.
much worse.
Let's not forget to talk about the blood in the third movie. That was so.
We'll get there.
Yeah, but
we got a whole other episode
with
for
this
that
one
one
too. Like even just again, like the movie should be standalone good, and it should be the kind of movie like if you didn't see the first one, you could still enjoy the second one. But like I don't know, Sarah at some point, when she's helping this guy, she'd be like, hey, I've actually seen this before.
Yeah.
Like,
see, I am just now finding out that Sarah is the character in the second movie.
Really?
I had no idea.
And you're a
would
movie
never have
guy.
told you. Yeah, I had no clue.
Yeah.
we talked about it before and where you confirmed it. I was on the fence because like, but if I was writing the movie, she would have been I mean, not saying that I feel like other people might have suggested it's not just a Drew Davis exclusive idea here, but she should have been the crow. She should have been the one who got the powers, and even if she didn't die first, even because she was seeing these visions, if she was able to help, I don't know what the rules are to crows resurrecting you to become a vengeance machine.
I mean, you kind of have to die to be resurrected.
Maybe, but that's the story. Maybe she dies, and then
That was one of the ideas.
Yeah.
In fact, that idea got kicked around for a lot of the sequels. Is could we bring Sarah back and make her the crow? That was one of the.
It could have worked. I will say, I will give, because I am the type of person, I will give credit where credit is due. That resurrection scene was actually amazing.
Yeah.
I was so into that. I also just down to the stupid little scientific facts about how literally him being underwater in a cold city like that would have fully preserved his body. That kind of was a little bit of a nitpicky problem I had with the first one, is he was buried for a year.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have had skin. He probably wouldn't have had muscle. The bones would have started to like decay. So there really is no reason he should have come back as a full-blooded human being.
A good-looking one too.
Yeah, exactly.
He eventually heals though. Like he would. I mean, maybe not right away, but like it would have.
Sure, but
would've
still,
gotten there.
it's like he
Maybe
just
he was
came
in
out.
the ground longer.
He
and we
came
just
out as
didn't
if
see
he had
him.
died the night before.
Yeah.
But I think because honestly, with the whole movie, my biggest thing was like I could care less about Ash.
Yeah.
Everything about Ash, I was like, I don't care. Every time Sarah was in a scene,
Yeah.
I was like, she's the main character in my brain. Like
Every time Ash talks too, you're just like, shut up.
Yeah.
What
Stop.
was with his accent?
Yeah. Well, he's a European actor. He's a big deal. So Vincent Perez is actually a big deal in
I've
Europe.
heard the name.
Yeah,
I
and-
don't know anything about him.
He'd done a lot of like French historical romance movies. He was like a kind of a
So this was
sex
not
icon.
Maybe this wasn't his niche. I mean, he's like, I'm more into French historical romance. Than...
And I got plenty of randos about how they achieved the lead actor for this.
Yeah.
And we mentioned just 2 years later, not just the CGI, but they Brandon Lee's grave is not even settled yet.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how much the trajectory of the first film had to do with his death and just kind of the hysteria, but also kind of the cult aspect of that.
Yeah.
They're not even waiting 2 years and we got a cash grab going on. And it's wild.
I mean, it sounds like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, it sounds like, but you got Tarantino.
So that was so we're thinking then that this was like 100% a 4 sequel cash grab and not like the movie was made in this way because they were attempting to like pay respect to the first one. Because I read a little bit about that where they like asked the fans what should we do and they like try to do justice with the first one. And then it seems like the second one was like, let's do it almost seems like it was a reboot before reboots were a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's weird. I agree. And I read that this is like the early days of message boards, and they were like going to Crow message boards and asking the fans, and they literally somehow drifted back towards basically the same. And they got a Crow that they try. You can tell with the hair.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were trying to remake Brandon Lee again too.
Right,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the makap was worse.
Yeah. Much worse.
That makeup scene was so cringy when they were, I was like, she's not like she's got a busy schedule. She's got some more tattoos on her. She's not putting a lot of time into this.
When he took his shirt off, my immediate thought was, is she about to fuck a dead guy?
I know. And he's kind of a father figure, like the original one, because if he's like a metaphor for the original, like Draven was almost like this caretaker type. Like
she was into him though. Like
Yeah, they did not do Sarah justice.
So no.
Sarah is nothing. I wrote that on my notes. Sarah is nothing like I would have imagined her growing up 8 years later.
Yeah.
She would be more well-rounded, more street savvy. I just don't. This is not Sarah grown up to me.
No,
not at all.
So much so where we were not sure if she was the same Sarah. Maybe it was just a coincidence that another person finding a dead body resurrected by
like
a crow.
I said, had no idea.
Yeah. Honestly, I want to see one of these movies, or maybe they do a reboot of the whole series, but from the perspective of the crow.
Yeah.
Like that, if it's assuming it's the same crow that keeps coming back and helping people.
Yeah.
That crow's seen some shit.
Yeah, seen some stuff.
Like,
was he back in the 1400s? And,
Yeah.
He's like resurrecting knights.
Is this just an immortal crow?
And there's like I don't know, since the crow doesn't talk, I don't know if dialogue's the right word, but there's some interaction between Ash and the crow. And the crow always seems so annoyed, which I don't blame him. Like, I was annoyed on the crow's behalf. I was like,
when he's suiting up, the way it kept cutting back to the crow just looked like the crow was so hype. Just like, what the fuck? Look at this guy. What?
Here
we go. Yeah.
Dude, I know. That's actually a really good idea from the bird's point of view.
I think I'm assuming it's the same crow. That crow has seen a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's hilarious. I love that idea.
Now, granted, I have to say, I could see bits of the script that I was like, oh, he actually put some work into writing this thing, and it was just ruined by the director.
Yeah.
Because here's my thing. If I watch a movie and one actor is overacting, I blame that actor.
Yeah.
If every single actor in the entire movie is overacting, that is 100% the director's fault. And my God, was this bad?
Yeah. It feels like no one's in the same movie.
No. No.
And it seemed like none of them could care at all about. Like, there was no. I mean, so like in the first one, it's like we talked about this where we said like they all seemed like they were having a good time.
Yeah.
All these villains, like they were one dimensional, but like each actor playing the villain was like, this is my.
They're
dimension.
finding their space.
We're gonna have fun, and I'm gonna be the knife guy. You know, like they were having fun with it, and like. I swear, every character, the good guys, the bad guys, they all looked like they were just ready for their shift to be done. They were so. For me, I right from the beginning, I was really hoping, like, because in this movie, I did not enjoy it, but there kept being parts where I was like, oh, maybe this will turn into a good movie. And so like the three parts where like. I thought Sarah, right away at the beginning, I was like, she's going to become the crow, and that's going to be awesome. But that didn't happen. And then there was one scene where Ash almost was interesting because he was like, wait a minute, what if I don't want to die? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the movie where like he has these crow powers, and then he's torn between vengeance, which is his calling, and but like he doesn't want to go back to being dead. So like, how's he figure out how to stay alive as the crow? And then I did think it was really cool.
That's actually a good idea.
And I'm coming up with all these great crow fan fiction movies here.
Hell yeah. I support.
It did get cheesy and ridiculous, but when the main villain was it Noah was the main villain? Was he the main?
Jonah, yeah. Jonah Earl, which should have been a redneck with the flannel.
Right, in Copenhagen. Absolutely, yeah.
You hear his name before you see him. I was thinking, oh, this guy's going to be a hillbilly.
Sexy black dude.
Yeah,
in a tunic.
He's the first black Jonah I think I've ever seen. Like, he was raised by white gangsters. And like we already know, like he was adopted or something. But like when he got the crow powers, when he like, and that was still goes to like someone knew that this something had happened, so it like. Think it connected a little to the first one, like, oh, this happened 2 years ago. What should we do?
Yeah.
And like, I think they should have gotten him crow powers earlier and should have made that bigger, and then maybe not ended in so weird. But like,
100% agree.
Yeah.
Those were that was interesting to me when.
That's where I keep saying like the script I feel like was probably decent when it landed in front of the director, and I have a very strong feeling the director made a lot of changes before they even got to shooting, and then once they hit editing, it got even worse.
Yeah. I actually have a rando for it, but the Weinsteins took an X to it,
Because knowing what he tried to do to Lord of the Rings, I can only imagine what he did to this. So
we need a Snyder cut. We need a Snyder cut of Crow City of Angels.
Yeah, if it tells you anything, like if you want to buy the Blu-ray of this, it's like $100 because they've never even felt the impetus to do another run. So you got to go get them on eBay. They're actually like a collectible, even though it's a really bad. Like they don't make them.
I mean, it's that so bad.
Have you seen the extended version of it? Or
no, it's not there. Yeah, they actually do talk about it. It's not available, and there's no one has a desire.
No. When you watch the movie, that's very believable. Yeah. Nobody there looked like they were like, "Oh, look at me, I'm in a movie." They were like,
not at all.
Yeah,
it's either this or suicide.
Yeah. And
oh my God.
The final note I had is it's never good when a serious effort looks like a satire of itself.
Yes.
It literally looks like it's a movie it's satirizing the first one. It's like a Naked Gun version of it.
Not another teen movie, The Crow.
Yeah. It could have been called The Crow movie too.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, they meant that.
Yeah.
That's real. He's in a tunica. It's
like, oh, that's serious.
Yeah. There's so much oh my God, I know we got to get on, but there's so much about Jonah that I just why? First of all, like, why? What is the thing he kills the crow on? The sphere thing. It's like, who has one of those? Like, this guy was a drug dealer. He worked his way up to be the crime boss. He wears a tunica. He's got a blind oracle with a hood that looks like Resident Evil 3.
Absolutely.
I think the actress was just so embarrassed. She was like, please don't show the top half of my face.
Yeah, I will never get another job again. Yeah. And then
even when you heard her backstory, you're like, that's an interesting movie. Let's have a movie on her. And
yeah, everything is more interesting than The Crow. You know, yeah, and I'm just like, where did you get one of those things? It's like, why are you like somehow like he's mystical? Like why is he mystical?
And really, there wasn't much about him up until like we saw him and he showed like there was more about the second lead henchman. I guess it was, and I think that might have been the one played by Iggy Pop.
Yeah,
like his death and like the Ash's attempt of a monologue, and like it was and because I was like, I looked at like the times, I was like, I feel like we're not at the end of the movie. I was like, what if this is the end? What if that was the main guy he had to kill? But like you didn't, unless I might be wrong, but you didn't see Jonah anywhere in the actual. Like, he was the guy behind the guys.
Yeah,
so, I mean, like, they up until they brought him up, I was like, who's this guy?
They clearly were trying to recreate the mystery that they had with the first one of, oh, you think this guy is the final boss. Oh, no, then you realize that there's really a bigger boss. This just like they introduced him too early to make that happen. But then on top of that, didn't give us any information to give a shit as to why he's in charge of all of this. And then there was just this random like, oh, by the way, he's kind of magic too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also knows how to steal the crow powers. Which maybe they could have given us one more scene earlier in the movie where we learn why he knows this about. So when he hears about the crazy resurrected guy killing, we know why he knows all this stuff. Maybe he was a drinking buddy with the villain from the first movie.
Yeah, with Top Dollar.
Yeah. He's like, oh crap, Top Dollar and his agent.
He's like, I got some advice for you.
He's like, I remember.
If you ever run into a crow, first eat an eyeball. You got to start with an eyeball.
Got to.
And then you got to do your sister. What a movie this is.
Oh my God.
As a reminder, if you really love the City of Angels, make sure you share this with your grandma, your friends. I know you got a City of Angels fan out there in your life. Hit that send button.
Could you please tell us why you love this movie so much?
I would love to know.
Because I want to hear a perspective. They're out there. I'm going to YouTube it. I'm like, people who are biggest fans of City of Angels. And like, there's got to be one guy who's like, let me tell you why this is the best movie in the franchise.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the Crow subreddit and just be like, people who love this movie, please defend it, because what the fuck?
I think I would rather you go and be like, I love City of Angels. It's the best movie ever. Yeah. Watch them.
You tell me why.
I think it's retroactive, actually. I think what happened was they probably shat on it when it came out, and then they saw the next one and the next one, and they were like, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it was okay. Because it gets worse.
I haven't seen the fourth yet, but I've heard that's the one people are like,
I think it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. Holy shit.
It's got Dennis Hopper, Edward Furlong, what's the girl from American Pie? Tara Reid.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about her.
Yeah.
Everyone did. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm also like in my brain, I'm not lining up the time frames as like her in American Pie days and this movie. Like, so that's.
I mean, the fourth one came out, 2005, 2006?
Yep, 2005,
that would make sense.
So, yeah, it was like right after the second American Pie had come out. So, obviously, her career was already already on a downward trend.
Can you do something besides take your clothes off?
Yeah.
Is there, what
She's like, I'll try. They're like, well, we have a perfect movie.
Yeah.
You know, everyone loves The Crow.
Do you remember Dennis Hopper? He was a great actor. Not anymore.
We've ruined that for you.
Yeah, we basically took out a loan, and we're helping him pay off that loan. So, all right. Actually, not randos. We're gonna do the interview questions. All right.
Okay.
Seriously, did Sarah just have a crow making factory up there? The moment a dead guy showed up, she's like, I know what to do.
Yes.
She's got the makeup, she got the paint, she's got the clothes. Like did you think about that when he's putting the sweater and the trench coat? Or he didn't have the coat yet, but she had all the gear.
Clothes from? Yeah.
Yeah, you had the black leathers and
you got to figure if she's been trying to find the next crow, she has like multiple sizes because who's to say?
Yeah.
You know?
she's like, God, I hope this fits.
She's got the small to XL, and then if you got 2X, then I'm sorry, dude. You should have lost some weight before you got murdered.
She's putting in some major tattooing hours.
Got a little bloating down there in the water. Mr. Medium. Also, everyone in the city is struggling, right? It's a crime-ridden city, poor children are in the streets. But she's a tattoo artist, and she's got sexy scarves hanging around her bed. What's going on with Sarah? What happened?
Hey, tattoo artists make some serious bank, okay?
And and that's like a real like a cyberpunk vibe. Like everyone wants tattoos are like that's like a respectable job in this city. Is this supposed to be like a dystopian LA? Is that because it's City of Angels?
The first one was like dystopian Detroit, and this is dystopian LA.
So, it's not the same city every time?
It's not. Well, they don't ever make
Sarah
it clear.
Moved, but she needed to find a place comfortable, so she moved to a similar...
Right.
Like it'd either be like the one from Crow one, dystopian LA, Gotham, or Detroit. Like those are her options.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And she didn't want to hang out with Batman, so.
Yeah.
She's like, I need someplace where my seasonal depression feels normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no Palm Beach, resort.
See, it's interesting to me that like they don't keep it in the same place, because one of the things we were talking about in the first one was it was so fun about the scenery, the fun, the vibe of the place and all the set design and everything like that. Like, it would be interesting if, as these movies kept going on, you saw like the state of this made up city, but it's like now I'm realizing it's different places, and I'm like, that's.
Well, and I understand, and where it really throws you off, where like there's this Day of the Dead motif.
Yeah.
And like, wait, are we in Mexico City?
No
one's speaking
New Orleans.
Spanish.
This is
No, it's LA. It's basically Mexico.
Yeah, like wait a second. And actually, I thought the Day of the Dead motif was kind of cool.
I liked that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was right when we started going through that parade, was when I was like, oh, this movie might actually have potential. You might have my attention again.
That part I liked.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I feel like the script was solid. Like they started with some decent stuff, and then it just devolved into whatever this was.
Even though if you really zoom in on the people partying and dancing, they look like they're acting. They don't look like they're at a rave on Molly. They're like you tell one guy was like, woo, and it was like, you're not high.
Yeah. Right. It's like you tell everyone to dance, but you don't have any music, so everyone's got a different beat going on in their head.
No one told me I was going to have to do this.
Oh my God.
Also, like her friend who eventually died, like the old guy that was he a tattoo customer, or was he? I think it was just a.
Oh, the tattoo shop owner.
He's the owner.
Yeah.
Creepy vibe, like their tattoo HR department really needed to.
You're like a daughter to me, but I'd fuck you too.
Yeah, I was like, that is you. Yeah, but hey, maybe in that city. But you know what? At that point, she's like used to it. She's lived there for a while. She's like, look, good help's hard to find. He at least gives me a paycheck. I don't know. Like
everybody's horny.
So.
Everybody.
I need the money to pay for my crow attire for the dead guys I'm picking up on the street.
I'm missing an XL.
From the last guy. Oh. Next question. At what stage of the villain life cycle do you get to just wear a tunic around? They tell you hear his name, they drop his name. I think Sarah is the one that drops his name. And what's funny is you don't even know it's the Sarah yet, because you're like, wait, is this the Sarah?
Yeah.
And they say Jonah Earl. I'm like, this guy's got Copenhagen and a flannel. There's no doubt. This guy's got a double barrel shotgun and a spit tune.
Yeah.
And then you see him, you're like,
the Confederate flag.
You're like, what is that? Like the tune, he's jacked. He's like beautiful. He's like, I'll say it. He's a beautiful man.
Absolutely.
He's got the damn tunic on. It's like, what is this?
He looked like he came straight out of the Mummy movie.
Yes.
he can pull a tunic off because he looks like that.
Yeah.
If I showed up as like the final boss in a tunic, they'd be like, Put some clothes on. This is embarrassing for both of us. like Ash would be like, I am not gonna kill you in the horrible way I've planned until you put a sweatshirt on. This is making both of us uncomfortable.
Like, I was gonna kill you, but now I just feel kind of bad for you, bro.
Yeah.
Do we need to get the what not to wear people in here?
Yeah. I just can't imagine like when you start entry level, you're dealing like crack or whatever on the streets, and like where along the line are you just envisioning the tunic?
And
I
once you move on to
Egyptian warlord.
And then give me the stone orb so I can sacrifice a soul carrying crow.
Yeah.
You know, I bet you bought them at the same place though. I bet you like the tunic came with the
Tunics
Yeah.
are us.
you know.
Is
like,
this what I think it is?
So, yeah, they're like, you can't use this to sacrifice a crow unless you're wearing this.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be a great, archaic wizard, but I want to look the part too.
Yeah.
I'm a villain, not a monster.
Yeah, it's true. I love the idea of him going to like the villain store and like, is that the stone orb? I thought you were out of those.
You know, he's lived in this dystopian LA for so long. He's like, everyone dresses the same. It's only a green color scheme.
Let's be real though. LA is the only city you could get away with that.
Yeah, it's all about branding.
Right, absolutely.
I used to have a bit about, and it's funny. I actually got the worst heckle I've ever gotten in my comedy career. We had I don't know if you were back in Nashville yet, but we had the Waffle House killer that killed all those people.
Yep.
And
I missed that.
And
I would have totally been a target there. I would have been like,
Yeah.
I would. Oh, that's awful.
yeah, and it was at Antioch. If you're not in Nashville, you know Antioch's like our crime-ridden area.
I lived there for 3 years. It was great. I got all three of my roommates. We got robbed at the same Burger King at different times.
That's
we
crazy.
we didn't realize it, and then like one of us shared a story, and I'm like, oh, I have a story, and then we realized it was all the same place, and I was like, we should stop going there.
You're like, this isn't a lounge. You said this was a lounge, a BK lounge.
Oh my god.
So anyway, I had this bit about how like you need to like if you want to be a serial killer or kill people, you need to like do it in a good place so your branding is good. Because if you do it at Waffle House, you're the Waffle House killer. You're a redneck, or you can't speak. You don't have a great IQ. So like Nordstrom Rat Killer.
There we go.
That's a respectful one.
Yeah. So that's where you gotta aim. And then I had a woman in the crowd go, "My friend got killed there."
Oh my god.
Oh no.
And I was a guest host, and like usually I would have like I had all these ideas, like I was like, oh, but I'm not gonna get kicked out of my friend's mic, and so I was like, oh, okay.
That's always the worst feeling when you're guest hosting, is realizing you might be the reason your friend's mic goes under.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And you guys know, and if I said the name of the person who was, you would know why I didn't do it. I was like, I can't ruin this. I can't ruin this.
That's funny.
So anyway, it's all about branding for Jonah Earl.
Yeah.
I think he's doing a good job.
He is.
Yeah.
He's memorable.
For a man named Jonah Earl, he is like he's gone from rags to a tune. I was gonna say rags to riches, but like maybe he's saving money on the clothing. He needed to buy the pay for the Oracle lady. She's probably high on the payroll.
I still think top dollar snorting eyeball smoke is better. Like he's just trying. He's not even. He's still somehow not even in that strategy. Like until you snort the smoke of an organ out of someone you killed, you're nowhere, man.
No, that was. I was like, that seems a bit much. Top dollar. Settle down.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate, like when a movie, you can see the glimpses, but it's all so bad. Because like throughout the whole thing, I kept seeing that the DP and the pyro guy knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
The DP like literally was like, I don't care how bad this is turning out. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to make this look as good as it can, no matter how bad this director makes it. And I got to say, he delivered. Like everything looked fantastic. I had no complaints with any of the camera work whatsoever.
The camera work was actually, I thought, spectacular.
Absolutely.
What was happening in front of the camera, not good, but the framing was creative.
You can only do so much with the camera. They were probably like, I wish I could.
Yeah.
At some point, they're like, I should just get out there and do the acting for these
people. Someday I'll film Daniel Day-Lewis. But right now I have Vincent Perez. Yeah. I don't even know what he's saying.
I don't even think he wants to be here.
And the haze. I did love the haziness. We do have a category for this, but I did love... I did like the first one better because it felt more like a place that exists. Like I was like, that place exists somewhere. This felt more ethereal, really fictional. Yeah. But I did love that everything kind of had smog and you couldn't see far in front of you. I did dig that a little bit.
I thought it was a little cheesy. Like I was like, it's like they're pretending to be a bad movie. I was like, they're like, how can we? It's like they saw what was going on. They're like, well, let's lead in.
Let's put smog in there.
I was like.
And not the dragon.
Yeah. What's a really bad city like? You can't see 3 feet in front of you, Todd. That's what it is.
We're going to Shanghai.
Get your cigarettes ready.
Yeah.
Randos.
Here we go.
Randos. People are so glad Randos are back, by the way.
I'm so glad they're back.
And you put in your...
I made a new name for it. Like, I called us the Rand Bros.
Rand Bros.
There we go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Movie Wars 2.0. 1.0 couldn't do that shit.
No, that's Drew 1.0 could have never come up with Rand Bros.
Randos. Rando knows.
So yeah, if you're listening, Drew 1.0, I hope we meet, and it's not like a Western duel type
and we
situation.
hug it out. Yeah,
I hope you don't get murdered and then get resurrected by a crow.
All the movie wars host in one room. This is awkward. Aren't you the quarter mile guy?
And then they all come in.
Vin Diesel stands behind him. You don't insult my family.
We're family.
We're not co-hosts. We're family. No, I'm contractually obligated at least once to mention Fast and Furious.
Absolutely,
you have to.
So, yeah, and I feel like we just did. So good.
Yeah. You're so good at dropping it in there. All right, randos. James O'Barr was going to, so the author of the original Crow comic was going to write this, and once he started to join the team and work on the film, he couldn't do it. Seeing someone else as the Crow was really hard for him. Him and Brandon became very close friends.
Oh yeah.
In fact, there's a couple of interviews where Brandon's not clear about it, and there's this one interview in particular where Brandon was in his drab and he was kind of almost methed out. He was almost talking like he was Draven, but the way he's talking about O'Barr, and like I mentioned on the first podcast, O'Barr had gone through a lot of stuff in his life, and that's what led him to write it. You could tell that they had become friends.
That's awesome.
And he was kind of joking around about him. He's like, he's not the kind of guy you'd want to bring home to your mom, and like he's like, but he was like, James would want me to say that. He says that, and you could tell they had a very endearing friendship. And James couldn't do it, and so he gave everything. Him and David, sorry, how can I
David
forget?
S. Goyer.
David S. Goyer. I almost say Goyle, or David S. Goyer. Were splitting duties on that, but he ended up saying, you do it all. And for those that don't know, some of you may, as bad as this movie is, David S. Goyer becomes the person that writes all of Nolan's Batmans, Terminator Dark Fate, and some of the modern Superman movies.
This is like the start, the foundation.
Rough start.
So yeah.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Can I pose a question from that rando?
Please.
So I know that there's multiple Crow comics. Do these movies follow with, like, was this storyline what the second comic was?
So the first Crow was based on a consolidation of 4.
Okay.
So there were 4 comics, I believe, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a number wrong. This was the late 80s, early 90s.
Please
go to Reddit.
Like just drop.
Please rip Kyle to shreds.
And talk about my mother. She's fair game.
Make a new slur just for Kyle.
Yeah, just you Castro hole.
You can do better than that, but that's the bar right now. That's the one to beat. Castro hole.
Yeah, it's a very low bar.
Gotta start somewhere.
The fact that I came up with something so bad is insulting. Maybe I deserve.
It's in line with City of Angels, so keep going.
Yes.
Castrate yourself. I don't know. So these other movies, are they like related to the actual?
A little bit.
Okay.
They do. There were other ideas. O'Barr did continue to write more, so there were other ideas he wrote, and he also had offered more ideas throughout the franchise. There was one where there was like a Native American one where like the Crow was actually like a Native American who died like in pre-America and came back during modern times, and so not only is he like alive now to revenge, but he has to get used to modern life.
That could have been so good.
That sounds like a great movie.
And there's another one where like a pregnant woman dies and she comes back to avenge her
Oh no, that's sad, but that would be a good movie.
There were all these creative ideas.
I was really hoping you were gonna say the baby came back as a baby, but with a gun.
I would
Played by Alec Baldwin.
If the Crow character was like, when she came back, she was still pregnant and still dealing with like pregnancy stuff, but with the Crow humor.
Just the worst
so as
pregnancy
she's killing
cravings.
things, she's like talking about cravings or talking about her cramps, and like I'm just saying,
my sciatica's acting up. I can't do this right now.
She becomes the most manic. Like she just becomes.
Where's the pickles and mustard?
She's dealing with the psychoticness of the. I imagine it's a lot to be risen from the dead and not know
pregnant,
but then also like pregnant stuff.
And in these heels,
that would have been a good Crow too.
Yeah,
if Sarah was the pregnant lady that died.
And that's the thing, yeah, and that's the thing. And there was one where Sarah dies and she comes back. There was another one where Top Dollar was supposed to be resurrected. So Grange
to kill all of,
and they were going to be resurrected by a bad crow. And so and you see it in this movie.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, there were all these better ideas. Literally, even the worst one I just mentioned is still better than they went to the message boards and asked a bunch of questions. Yeah, we should do that. And then he's ended up like basically doing a cut and paste with worst actors.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. But yeah, and throughout the entire franchise, Barr did continue to produce more comics and ideas, and a lot of them were interesting. So, but they weren't interested in it.
Okay.
They had a formula. They knew what worked. They knew what people wanted. And honestly, we'll get to this in 3, but that's what led to the third one going straight to VHS. Was that it originally was supposed to have a theater release. But
I was gonna ask actually. Yeah. Okay.
The performance of this movie was not only it didn't. It's not that it wasn't profitable. It was actually at the time the biggest Labor Day release of all time.
Oh wow.
At the time, but fans were so disappointed.
I can
Critics
imagine.
hated it so much. It was so panned. This is before the internet was predominant. So like we're talking newspaper critics and they're shitting all over it. And
Roger Ebert.
Yes, and the fan sentiment was so bad that they're like, we're not going to fund this to go to theater. So that's why the third one, Salvation, ended up being straight to VHS.
I'm going to save my thoughts on the third one.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts.
I have a lot of thoughts. Anyway, it's super interesting. Once I saw Goyer's name on this, I was like, holy smokes, this is where he got his start? Like, that's wild. Obviously, Nolan Batmans are okay.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Those are okay.
I liked it. Yeah.
Pretty damn good, actually.
Which I will say, he wrote the script for the first one and then worked with both the Nolans on the story for the second two.
Right.
So yeah, he
was like, "What if we brought in more crows and men in tunics?" And they're like, "You're just gonna work with us on this one. We're gonna
like they didn't know he wrote City of Angels, and like the first one comes out, and they bring him to him like, "Listen, Batman Begins was good, but we found out what you did.
We need to take you off.
We saw Vincent Perez, dude. Get the fuck out of here. We'll put your name on it, but you're."
I bet you, because it seems like he's a guy that knows how to do things. When you look at his whole line of work there, I bet you when City of Angels came out, he was like telling his friends, like, "Please don't."
Yeah, don't go. Don't go. We're like, it's like us telling friends not to come to an open mic. Like, don't do it. Everyone's high.
Yeah.
There's the crowd's high. No one's gonna. No,
if
it's not.
You want to come to something? Come to this other one, but
or
not
he's
the
like,
mic.
if you're coming, please watch it when you're high.
Yeah.
Like that. Like,
Drinks get obliterated, so you don't remember.
Don't bring mom, please God. Don't bring mom.
Unless you hate her, then bring her.
Bring her. Yeah. So anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
I was like, or the opposite. He's like the one person in America that's like, this was freaking genius.
This is the best thing
my
ever.
masterpiece.
Like, he's so
I basically
proud of
established myself.
Yeah.
This is my 2001. Okay.
Oh man. So next, Rando, the weight of replacing Lee weighted heavy. We alluded to this earlier with how did they land on Vincent Perez?
Yeah.
They auditioned 300 people.
Wow.
Until Vincent Perez was hired. You know who the leading was?
Who?
Bon Jovi.
That would have been awesome.
John Bon Jovi was the lead he was the number one choice. Now it's really interesting.
God.
It makes sense in one way. Bon Jovi did do some movies. Like the first movie I ever saw him was that really shitty romance movie, Moonlight and Valentino. If you ever seen that? I watched that with my mom. She was drunk.
Actually,
and I was sad.
And you were wishing you were drunk.
Yeah, and she had I was getting Virginia Slim secondhand smoke in my hair. Like, man, Bon Jovi has beautiful hair. You know, and but it makes sense. And they have this obsession with Iggy Pop because James Barr in the comics, like all the body, like the reason he is jacked, and I agree with your sentiment on why Lee looked so jacked coming out of the grave, but Iggy Pop was the frame. Like he was like who inspired him. So Iggy Pop is very jacked. You see him old in this movie, very jacked. That was his thing. Shirtless, really muscular, really athletic. And so he was the inspiration for a lot of the bodies in the comics.
Okay.
And the first two Crow movies are directed by Alex Proyas and Tim Pope, are music video directors. That's where they got their start.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It always sounds like it's like the start of a really like there's going to be an 80s electric guitar solo at any point in the song.
And the movies intentionally look like music videos. That's why the soundtracks are always really important. And even though this one's not as good, it is a bright point. The soundtrack was still fun.
It was all right. It's one of those things. I'm shocked with how many David Bowie videos, what's his name, Tim Pope had done. I'm shocked they didn't try to get David Bowie in, especially after Labyrinth.
Did he do I'm Afraid of Americans, that music video with Trent Reznor and David Bowie?
I'm
afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I love that song. I'm afraid
song,
I can't help it. I'm afraid I can. Sorry.
Comment below with your favorite David Bowie song.
Yeah, and your favorite American that you're afraid of.
I love that.
Probably works at some gas station. All right. I already kind of hinted on this, but originally Top Dollar and Grange were going to be resurrected by a bad crow, which I think would have added such an interesting thing. Now we have good crows, and we obviously learned at the end there are thousands of crows out there.
What are they doing?
Just doing shit.
Flying through people.
It's like, hey, I don't have a soul right now. If you want me to kill Jonah, I can fly at him. I don't have a guy.
Yeah.
But they're like a sign. Like once they're saying, like, sorry, I got 2 crows this week. I can't. I got 2 resurrections this week. I can't. But
it's my night off.
But Betty, I know Betty, her guy didn't show up. He actually didn't resurrect, so she can fly into Jonah and create bad CGI. So ask Betty and her pals.
Someone needs to do an animated series that is not just from the perspective of a crow, but all the crows, as if they have like a gigantic office and there's like they have the boss crow who's giving them like pep talks before they all go to their
Performance
resurrectors.
reviews.
Yeah.
Hey
An
guys,
IT
you're all
department.
killing it. Bunch of regular murderers.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh my gosh, Ed does the same joke every week and we have to laugh at it.
It kind of goes back to your idea, though. Like, from the perspective of the crow, there's like a break room. They're all smoking. Like, God.
Yeah.
Or like they
My
have,
last guy.
they have some guys that they're like, he was so badass. Like that Brandon Lee guy, he was so awesome. And then they like, man, he was such a fat like
He was unmotivated.
Even with super speed, he was like so like the bad guys almost I had to help him murder them. Like I was like I had to do way more. Like to carry his
I love this. We just went full circle on your idea earlier. That's amazing.
I tell you, that it should be a crow animated series. With the crow, like you said, animated.
I'll produce it. Yeah.
We gotta make money on this.
Yeah,
The crow.
the crows.
Oh, I love it. So this is really cool. This was my favorite rando, and it's kind of wild that at the time you wouldn't have had a clue. But the band, did you know who the band playing at the Dead Festival was at the Day of the Dead Festival?
No.
The Deftones. It was before their first record ever came out. They hadn't even released a record. This was their first track.
Oh, Chino.
And Chino Marino, Steven Carpenter. I love the Deftones.
Yeah, they're great.
That's why I love this. I love the Deftones. And but anyway, no one knew who they were, and they were the band. But Chino still had dreadlocks then, so I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember. I think you told me that, and I was like, oh, that's fun. It goes to show you that. And the last one we were talking about how much the music added to the movie, but we learned in this movie that if you just have good music, it doesn't necessarily mean a good movie.
Yeah.
You also have to have like one of those. What are they called? A plot.
Yeah. The thing under it's gotta be. It's kind of gotta be good.
Music takes it from good to great, but without other things, it's just like, oh, that's a fun song.
Yeah. It's like, what if we put a really good song over it? Is that gonna fix it up? We'll try, Tim. And this, you already alluded to this a lot. The film submitted at 2.5 hours. That was Pope's version.
Oh my God.
And usually there's I don't understand. I did research on this and I could never really find all the details, but usually the director's not left in the dark with how long the final runtime is. But the story here is, and it's kind of hard to believe, he submitted it at 2.5 hours. And then without his knowledge, Bob and Harvey Weinstein cut it down to 84 minutes. And they kind of like went to it with a machete.
Yeah.
There's missing scenes. There's massive chunks of the story. There's a lot of stuff that probably that's leading us to ask the questions we're asking.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk.
It might have been an awesome movie.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not surprising because Harvey Weinstein originally asked Peter Jackson to make Lord of the Rings in 2 movies. And then once they wrote 2 movies, he was like, no, you need to make the whole thing in 1 movie.
Huh.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Harvey put out a fuck ton of good movies. Fuck that guy, but he put out a lot of good movies. So it's like, I understand he kind of knew what he was doing with certain things, but like, there comes a point when you cut the life out of something. Like, you can't just cut it down to like the bare minimum and still expect it to have everything in it that made it good in the first place.
Right.
I learned that with my second podcast episode of the Quarter Mile podcast. I was like, I had it so in my head, like I was like 45 minutes and that's it.
Yeah.
And like, when we're before editing, these things are like an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to cut out, it's going to be 45 minutes. And If you ever do listen to my other podcast and you stumble on the second episode, please just give another one a shot.
Especially when you're a comedian, you're always doing callbacks, you know, and like you cut out the original joke, but we do a callback, and we're all laughing hard. And the listeners like,
and people are like, I don't.
Is that the Waffle House killer thing?
They're
like,
really into those crows. I don't know what the deal is.
What is this crow break room? Like, what are they?
The Crows starring Russell Crowe. I love it. That's it.
That's funny. It took me a second. Russell Crowe. Oh God, that's good. Let me laugh for a minute.
There we go.
Russell Crowe. Oh God, that was good.
I feel like you gave me I gave like a $1's worth of laugh, and you gave me like $30, and I need to give you change, but like I don't. Yeah.
Well, you know when it takes a second, like I was fixing to get into the war card, and then I was really focused, and I was like Russell Crowe, the Crow. It got me. You're right. That was a good ratio, but it was funny. It killed me. That was good.
I'm glad.
Shall we war?
Let's do it.
Shall we crow? Shall we fly?
Let's crow.
That's right. Top bill class. Fuck. Top bill. The old granddad. Top bill cast. And remember, the crow flies is our affirmative. Yes, this is great. And our negative is eat crow. It's bad. Hate it.
I still think it should be that crow. Or that's Crow Raven.
That's Crow Raven. It's just in case I didn't have enough time for this random, but all the birds in these movies are actually ravens. So Edgar Allan Poe would be proud.
From what I've heard, and because don't judge me, y'all. There's a movie I grew up watching called The Omega Code, which was like a better version of Left Behind.
Yeah.
There's a shot right near the beginning where they had to get this. It was supposed to be a crow flying away, and every time they used an actual crow, it just would not do what they wanted. They bring in a raven. First take, it does exactly what they want. So I guess ravens are just easier to train.
Look, crows are too busy resurrecting people for revenge plans. Like, let's not.
This is the first cigarette I've had all day. I'm not flying nowhere.
Let the ravens be actors. Let the crows be the supernatural beings.
I got a Vincent Perez on my schedule. I can't do this, man. I can't do this job anymore.
I have a very, very good idea of where all of our votes are going to go.
I had a cousin who was in the birds. I could have made a lot of money. I was sick that week.
Bird flu.
Damn you. H1N1 or whatever. Yeah. Is that what that one was?
Yeah, I think so.
I get lost in the numbers. Top bill cast. Vincent Perez.
Could care less. He could have not been in the movie, and I would have been like, it's fine.
He should have picked an accent and stuck with it, because there were moments his Europeanness would come through, and then others where I'm like, are you trying to be American? Like, what are you doing here?
The only cool scene was when he was like riding the motorcycle, but I was like,
that's my favorite scene.
I think I just liked the motorcycle. I think the motorcycle did most of the work in that scene.
If the rest of the movie somehow captured that, I had that in my notes. I actually loved that scene. I hate this movie. It's complete garbage. That was cool. Yeah. The haze, the birds flying with them. The camera work is right on. Like, why couldn't they just like capture a little bit of this and put this elsewhere? But yeah, that was his best acting. But notice he's not saying much. Yeah. The Crow's talking a lot. Vincent Perez not so much.
So far, I feel like they try to give the Crows some personality. And I will say, and maybe this is the supporting cast, but I liked the Crow in this movie a lot. Like, he seemed like a fun Crow.
Yeah, he was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? He was a little finicky. It was kind of, unpredictable.
Yeah. The Crow was a bro.
The Crow bro.
Yeah.
The Crow Raven.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back at the quotes. For example, I'm all your nightmares rolled into one, for example. Every line he delivered was really hurried, and maybe it was an accent or something. I'm all your nightmares rolled into one. I'm like, what is this? Like Street Fighter? Like,
and that's where I'm like, okay, I could see where Goyer had some really fucking badass lines that were just completely butchered by whoever was saying them.
Did he caw at some point? Was that his reaction in a fight? Was he acted like a crow?
It was when he's killing Spider Monkey.
Yeah. That's my favorite quote.
And they're fighting in the barrels. And that's the one where Spider Monkey instantly recognizes him. You know, he's killed thousands of people. He's like, we killed you.
Yeah.
It's like, you're right. You did.
You're correct.
And I'm all your nightmares rolled into one. What's next? We got anything else in the Pez dispenser of dialogue here? Yeah. Anything? So we eat crow on this one?
Yes.
Big 100%. Time. I mean, I like the hair. The mask was bad.
Why didn't she paint the lips? Why did she paint around the lips?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell?
Had a limited budget for what she had with the stuff.
Yeah. She's running low.
She didn't want to, in case this guy was another dead guy who wasn't coming back to life.
And it's hard to paint someone's face when you're straddling them for no reason in some kind of like actually somewhat like subconsciously incestual
She's
way.
like, I don't want to have to kiss all this later, so let me put less on.
Yeah, let me just wrap my legs around you, even though you're kind of a father figure.
So weird.
But I also don't know you.
Yeah. Do you take cash? Okay. All right. Supporting cast. And for supporting cast, we got Mia Kirshner as Sarah, who is way too attracted to be Sarah.
Yeah.
Richard Brooks is way attracted to be a guy with the last name Earl. Jude Earl. Iggy Pop, who thank God they didn't cast him as fun. Remember the big thing in the first one, we got to get Iggy Pop as Fun Boy.
Yeah.
Seeing him play Curve. I know we're getting into it now, but like Michael Massey crushed Fun Boy in the first one. Thank God Iggy Pop would have ruined that movie.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Thomas Jane is Nemo.
Yeah.
This is an early Thomas Jane. He becomes the Punisher eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I knew him. Yeah.
And did you know originally Thomas Jane was going to be Rick in The Walking Dead?
Oh.
I did not know that.
Original. Yep. He's lost a lot of big roles.
Yeah.
He's always like I see him in a lot of lists. Well, Thomas Jane was supposed to be the guy, and then some British guy showed up.
He's hustling, man. He's going to all those interviews, casting calls or
He's
whatever.
just this close.
Yeah.
I hate to mess up this name. Tai Trang as Callie. Which one was it? Callie? Who was that? I don't even remember that.
I don't know.
So forgettable.
Yeah.
Vincent Castellanos. God, I'm bad at. I'm sorry. Castellanos. Sorry, I'm so bad at this. As Spider Monkey, but he played Spider Monkey. Who cares?
Yeah.
And
he was the first one to die.
and Ian Dury as Noah. That's our supporting cast.
Honestly, only Sarah. Sarah did great.
Everyone else I forgot.
Yeah.
It just. I mean, Iggy Pop. He was there. He did his thing. This is where I can't necessarily fault the actors because. Again, when every single actor sucks, it's not always the actor's fault. In fact, it's almost never the actor's fault because you can see where the director's influence is coming through.
They just all looked like they would have rather like not been working than being
Yeah.
everyone looked miserable during that. I mean, I will say I did think Sarah that actress tried to carry the movie.
Oh yeah, she did.
She did. So Sarah, if
she
you're
felt
watching
like the only one who tried.
You're the only one that I'm not saying eat crow to, but we have to be absolute justice. We have to rank them. So I'm going to give an eat crow.
Eat crow.
1 out of however many that was.
Yeah, eat crow. Oh, and I like what you said because no one stands out here.
Yeah.
Usually in a movie, like in a bad movie, you can still say, well, this person did good. Like I could probably, if I thought hard enough, there's a lot of like, well, that person's got a future. This movie sucked, but I kind of like what that person did. It's directing because there are people here that go on to do other things. Vincent Perez was apparently a big deal in Europe, which I hate it when people say that. Well, a big deal in Europe. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
All right. The Euro sucks. All right. I don't know. Have you been to Paris lately? They don't speak English. But
they do. They just don't want you to know that.
Followed by like 20 French fans right there.
Yeah, I know.
Good riddance.
I know. I'm kidding. I have a racist grandpa, and he would go to Europe, and he'd come back and be like, "How'd you like Europe?" He'd be like, "There's a lot of foreigners there." Oh. You mean the people that live in the country that you visited?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you're right, Grandpa. They were the foreigners. Yeah, you were just a bystander.
Well, you just be more American. Well, you're in France.
Yeah, you're kind of in their
We won the
country.
war for them.
Oh my God, what an idiot! Yeah, fucking my grandma, but she makes the worst cookies. Everyone on the podcast knows about how much I hate my grandma. She's still kicking though.
She's still doing it.
Choke on your cookies, Grandma. They suck.
Gosh.
All right.
I'd probably like them. I have pretty low cookie standards.
Yeah. Well, if there's no cookies around and all of a sudden there's cookies, you're like, I'll eat a cookie.
Yeah.
But if you have 10 trays of cookies, you're going to rank them, and hers are going to be dead last.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dead last.
So you would take Pillsbury over hers.
Yeah.
Any day.
I thought you were going to say take pills. Like, I'll take pills. Yeah, I'll take pills all day long.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
I was like, so
I
would
love
take
the pills.
Yep.
Red, blue, green, pink, heart, soft, whatever you got. Chewables.
Let me stop you there. Yes.
I'll break open a liquid cap and just blah, It's 2-0 Eat Crow so far. And I didn't see this coming.
No.
Yeah.
This masterpiece.
this stunning creation. Poetic Killings. So last time we ranked, the creative, they were so creative, the killings. It's very, important to this franchise. What do you guys think about the slayings here?
They either they tried to copy from the first one and just didn't do it as well, or the only decent killing was Iggy Pop. That was, or I mean, I don't know, the last one where death by crow. That was
so
bad.
I'm gonna I'll still give it an eat crow. I thought about being nice because I was like, there's 2 good ones. But
no, we're gonna rip the shit out of this movie.
Crow.
Yeah.
Eat crow. It's so bad.
This is the one category where I was like, I wanted to give it some grace, but I can't. And the one is Curve. Like, yeah, that was the most creative, cool one. Yeah. But that explosion should have like left him disembodied. Yeah. Like there should have been limbs.
Yeah.
Yep. He's got a little bit of blood. Yeah. And then he floats him out into the water, and he's got the. It's amazing in this movie too how everything randomly turns into the shape of a crow.
Yeah,
you know.
I love that seems to be the thing in all the movies, and it was weird. It was the worst. Weird the first time in the first movie, but now like if I don't see a crow after a death, I'm like, well, he's mission not accomplished.
No
yet,
matter
sir.
how weird it is,
get back out there and sketch it.
Yeah.
One person's just throwing the flowers, and they just come into the shape of a crow.
Why are all those people? They just witnessed a crime, and they're just like, let's honor this.
And you're a filmmaker. How much B-roll of those people throwing? Like, do we got 2 minutes of B-roll of them? It feels like the.
Oh no! Yeah. I'll bet you, just of that person throwing the flowers, the B-roll is as long as Ben-Hur.
It's like,
and someone had 3 hours. Someone had to edit that. Like, no, this is the good part. Let's make sure this is where we really get the characterization.
Yeah. This is the guy you wanted. This is Iggy Pop, the guy that you wanted so bad in the first one. He's dead. He just died, and it was the only semi-creative killing in the movie. He's floating in the river, but you're looking at the people just throwing flowers. Like, show Iggy Pop.
Yeah. No. Also, like, why did they make that such a big deal? Like, I seriously looked at the times that I was watching. I was like, is this the end of the movie? Like, is this the...
Yeah.
And then
I thought that 4 times throughout the movie. I was like, this is the end? There's 30 minutes left?
Yeah. I hate that feeling. Yeah. You're like, oh, I thought this was almost over.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, okay, it seems like a good place to end. I would have been cool with ending in 20 minutes.
And then you check out, and you're like, I got to do a podcast on this. I got to be interested in this.
Remember something.
I don't know. There is also something fun about shitting on bad movies, though.
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's there is something enjoyable when you're just like...
Yeah.
Why?
Well, especially when it's tail ending, like the death of Brandon Lee and the cult nature of it, and this is what we got.
Yeah.
I will say, too, this reminded me of something that was in my notes. This is really important to me, actually. In the first one, we talked about how, like, Alex Proyas was concerned that the story wasn't complex enough. Like, in Brandon Lee filled in. He said he filled in all the gaps.
Yeah.
His acting, his physicality, his poetry, the way he acted. You see here now how without that prominence, this story suffers. Vincent Perez is not physical.
No.
His martial arts are very limited. I mean, freaking Brandon Lee grew up being trained by his father.
The greatest martial artist on film ever.
Who invented his own style.
Yeah.
And he was so physical, and he used his body not just to fight, but to move and to jump, and like everything was kind of poetic in the way he operated. There's none of that here.
No, and so you're right. You see it the absence when it's not there. You see how significant it was in the first movie in the second movie when you're like it's not there.
You're like, is something happening? He's gonna kill this guy. Okay,
yeah.
I was just
the first movie took a very less is more approach. The second movie was just like, no. Everyone who's watching this is a moron. Let's tell them what's happening.
Exposition galore.
The first one was like less is more. The second one was like nothing.
Yeah. Enjoy this. All right, 3-0. We are eating lots of crow. I'm getting full, actually.
Delicious.
The mask. So this is not just the mask, the attire, the paint, the everyone's get up, the style.
Awful. It was, again, like in the first movie, everything felt so natural and lived in as if like people had been living on the streets for 10 straight years and they had 3 sets of clothes. And this was this week, so they got one more for next week, and then another one for the next week, and then they start all over again. This literally was just like, okay, this guy needs clothes. Here's some clothes, put those on. You need a toga. Like, we're going to give you a tunic, toga, whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah.
We want you to be mystical, but we're not going to give you any reason why this should make sense.
Yeah.
Well, his name's Jonah Earl. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. Except wear flannel and do chew.
Yeah.
But are we saying it's terrible because the first one was so good and it's like we're comparing it to it, or like, did this one have a big budget or a bigger budget than the first one? Were they saving money on so they could pay their
That's a good question.
amazing actors? Like, were they like? Because I don't know. Like, I feel like they tried to stay in the same scheme, and I almost am inclined to be like, it's fine for what it was.
Yeah.
You know, I'm almost inclined to give that one a let it cruise on by. Let it fly. Let the crow fly. Because like they tried to stay with the same.
Yeah.
Like,
you might be right. And
honestly,
this one did have half the budget of the first one.
When we talk about, I already know for the next one, like I'm gonna not let it slide.
Yeah.
But on the mask. But for this one,
okay,
I'm gonna give it to them because like, was it as good as the first one? No, clothing wise, but like it was definitely inspired. Like they were still. I mean, it looked like it was the Kmart crow, honestly. Like it was like
I don't know.
Food stamps crow.
I can't give it any props. It was not good. I'm saying eat crow on this one.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think we know so much about how the first one was, the fact that Brandon Lee controlled his own attire and he controlled the mask, like, and the fact that it looked so cool, and that he knew that gradually it would have to wear down, but also he made it perpetually more cool looking and more lived in. And I do think that the attire that all the villains wore in the first one kind of matched. Again, they were very natural. We talked about how they look like they grew out of the ground, out of this shitty city.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily that all the villains are bad. Like, they don't stick out, but it's when you get to Jonah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it just makes zero sense to me. And Sybil.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
His what do they call her? She's an oracle.
Oracle, yeah.
She literally looks like Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. I kept waiting for it because she had that whole the hood over the whole. I kept waiting for her to pull it back and it'd be the one-eyed lady from before. And then she would have been like, "I've dealt with this before. Here's what you have to do."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look at them tying the two movies with the same name
Could have.
together."
Yeah.
But
No.
So we wouldn't eat crow, but you did try to.
I'm gonna let her fly.
Okay, well, it's close. Like we do have to give it a neat crow, but I do appreciate your positivity there. It is admirable.
You tried.
Yeah. How good are these bad guys, huh?
No.
Yeah. I'll start. Forgettable.
Yeah.
Spider Monkey. The fact that we killed you, and he's just like, it's just everything. There's a lot of exposition. They depend a lot on dialogue here. The flashbacks are really bad.
Yeah.
Whereas before they were kind of like a flavor. Here they're trying to force dialogue on you and force information on you with the killings, or what happened. None of them make sense to me. I don't know. Jonah again. I just don't understand why. Why was he that character like that?
I would have liked to have more of him so I could understand him.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like I feel like he was the one that was like, oh, there's something here.
Now I'm curious to see the full 2.5 hour cut.
Yeah.
Because again, I kept feeling like there was inklings of a good movie in this.
Yeah, because like there's a flashback when he's in the car and he's wearing a suit, like he's wearing an actual, and it makes you think at one point he wasn't wearing a tunica and doing mystical, like oracle things.
Yeah.
But it's just without that context, he's just weird. And it's just like
it doesn't belong in this world that both of the movies have tried to create.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know why Top Dollar was so compelling. I was thinking about this for this category. I was trying to nail down why Top Dollar. Like, I just think because he chewed up a lot of scenery. Yeah.
He fit. Like he fit the aesthetic. They weren't trying to make him something that didn't belong. There was no magic to him, even from the beginning. He had his magical person in his version of the Oracle, like, but there was no mystery for him. He was a mob boss. He was doing his thing, and he had someone to help him. But in this one, it's like, no, we're gonna try to make him some sort of mystical creature.
Yeah,
I feel like with Top Dollar, there was enough little things in the beginning scenes and the dialogues or with the actions, even the way he talks to his people, how he treats the ladies around him, like all there was enough things where you're like, I get that he's a villain, like and then so by the time he died in such a gruesome way, you're like, yes, that vile man died. With Jonah, we were like, man, what's going on here? We don't know enough. I know I'm not supposed to like you, but like I don't understand you. I want to be able to understand why I don't like you.
Yeah.
But
Also,
when he got the crow powers, I was like, that's cool, but we could have used this earlier.
Seriously. And then at the end, when he's just literally stabbed onto this pole and he's like, oh, ha, 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 I'm not dying.
Yeah.
And then the crows just fly through him. I'm like, where the fuck was this?
Where have these crows been?
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
They let their well, I guess maybe they knew the crow was faking it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there's so many movies that formula works. Like hell, even like the '90s Ninja Turtles when Splinter gets like even that worked. Like they made use of that. Like all of a sudden he was Super Shredder, and like that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like remember that? Like
that was a great.
That's
great
usually
movie.
like a cash in for movies. Whenever the villain or the bad guy gets the power,
on.
that's the good power, and all of a sudden they have it. Like usually they cash in on it, but here you're just like. He's like, oh no, here he comes. And then all the crows CGI him to death. Yeah. Whatever happened there.
Yeah.
And was that because they didn't have enough money? It would have been cooler if he was torn to shreds and bloody. But instead, he's like, he turns into a ray of light, even though he was never dead.
Yeah.
So
they took him to Crow Heaven, Crow Hell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crow Purgatory.
The Crowbar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not giving you that one.
As I said it, I was embarrassed, but I thought I'd keep the confident face. You know?
You got to try everything.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, something shouldn't be tried.
You don't need a governor up here like in a car. You just got to let the speed go.
Yeah, no, I was the category of the villains. Yeah, these ones were were forgettable and honestly carbon copies of the first one.
Mm-hmm. Like, just worse versions with worse names.
Yeah.
Spider Monkey. The minute I heard his name was Spider Monkey, I was like, it was in my mouth. It was so bad. All right, we're eating crow here. It's basically we got to get to these categories, but this is a losing battle here.
Absolutely.
There's one watcher who's like, "Are you kidding me? Are they blind?"
Spider Monkey is my god.
Like I have Spider Monkey tattooed on my bald head.
I've got a whole poster on my wall of Spider Monkey. He can't walk in my country without getting mugged.
Right.
My desktop background is a collage of Spider Monkey.
Spider Monkey. God, that's now that you say that, there is like one person.
Yeah.
Like there's one of everything. Right?
They'll find us.
Someone's like, I lost my virginity in that movie. I don't know why. They're so mean.
I named my penis Spider Monkey. It's got dreadlocks. Woo! It's getting wild. The Shitty City Award. What do we think about this setting?
Again, just nothing unique. The first movie, from the moment the camera turns on, you're transported to a different world. This just felt like somehow an even shittier version of LA, which I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't do much. I mean, it was clear it was a lower budget than the first movie. So I sometimes think that should be some grace, but like, yeah, some of the really cool things they did, a lot of the really cool things they did in the first one, they were like, let's not do those.
Yeah.
Here. So I'll give it Eating Crow.
Yeah.
This was literally the only one I gave the Crow Flies thus far. And the reason was to me it was the only redeeming thing, and it was not as good as the first.
Yeah.
But to me it was the camera work and how it intermingled, like the motorcycle scene.
Yeah.
I did like the haze, the music video feel. And those were the bright moments. And I did like the way, even though the crowd was weird, some of the people were obviously not used to raving in a crowd. I did like how it looked when he was climbing, and like this movie has good visuals. Yeah. Like if you take the dialogue out, there are picturesque moments where it's like, oh, that's a cool image.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can I change my answer?
You can change
because
that happens all the time.
You can do whatever you want.
You guys almost made me change last week. So
I'm thinking now about him coming back from the dead. I'm thinking about the parade scene and even the ending fights and the different tone of like the parade versus like the rest of the. I'm gonna let it fly on that one.
Yeah. No, it happens that on Movie Wars 1.0 that happened all the time. I would change at least once every couple episodes. Someone would change.
Sticking to my guns.
I like it. I dig
cool,
it.
Man.
I dig it. No, I get it, man.
Camera work doesn't save everything else.
It's true.
Yeah. And I've been involved in enough student productions to know that that's the case.
Yeah.
Back in college, there was a guy who spent, if I remember correctly, someone said he spent $30,000 on his senior film. And it was one of the most god-awful movies I've ever seen. He had a really nice camera, cinematographer knew what he was doing, and he paid out the ass for antique cars because it was a World War II set film. Those were the only redeeming qualities. Writing, terrible. Acting, terrible. Literally during one scene they filmed in a gym, you could hear the of the gym lights the entire way through. And even when they asked me to come in and fix the audio for it, I could not. It was so bad, I could not notch it out all the way.
Come on, Isotope.
Yeah. This was before Isotope was even doing that. I was in Premiere trying to find the frequency, and it just, so bad.
And then that guy's a Patreon for this.
Yeah.
He's our biggest supporter.
Yeah. Cliff actually made millions off that, by the way, but that's because his dad works for Citibank.
I really was hoping, I knew it wasn't the end of the story, but I was hoping you'd be like, hi, my name's Seth. I'm that guy, and I've learned to be better.
And then I killed him. I took a gym light and shoved it up his ass. He's dead now. Fuck you, Cliff. And Citibank. No, you're right. And then you see some jerk with a handheld that just makes a masterpiece, you know, with $5,000. I mean, you like Texas
like
Chainsaw.
Those BTS videos of like the dude diving through 2 car windows with a camera in slow motion. And it's just like, why couldn't we get that guy?
Yeah. It's you can't. I mean, I remember meeting Belmont kids, and I'm sorry, I'm not saying all Belmont kids are like this, but when I moved here to play guitar and someone would tell me they're spending all this money on Belmont, and then I go in the studio with them or do a gig, I'd be like, you paid to do that? Yeah. Like, I learned that when I was like 10 on accident. I accidentally learned that Jimi Hendrix songs when I was 10.
Don't make fun of my alma mater.
I'm sorry, but it's true.
Oh, I know.
Homeschool kids with rich parents, like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar for $60,000.
Are you just trying to cut me to the quick right now?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you
your degree?
Say what you mean.
But you're
Audio
probably really
engineering,
good, right?
homeschooled.
Hey, I homeschooled my kids for 2 years.
Oh man, I'm so sorry for them.
I couldn't hack it. Neither could they. I didn't know this. This is awesome. Way to learn about on the fly. I feel so bad. Can you forgive me? I'm sorry.
Never.
No.
I love you. I love you, Belmont. I'll cut you a check. Never. All right. Well, hey, I like it. We had a convert.
There we go.
We should do like in Mad Max Fury Road, whatever that happens. Just say witness. Valhalla.
Felt the power.
So did that one end up flying?
Yeah, that flew.
Damn, we got 1 point. I thought we were gonna get a queen sweep, but no.
I know it's bad, but it's not the worst thing ever. I have seen worse. Not much worse, but I have seen worse. I mean, Wicker Man will always exist. The remake. So, bees. Okay, last category: revenge served awesome. Did the punishment fit the crime? Do we like how he?
Nothing was memorable. Especially the way that it all just ended. Like, at least with the way the first one ended, you knew that Eric was kind of going back into the grave and was fully giving up. The second one just ended. Like, there was no resolution to any of the characters other than this guy died.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is a weird thing to not say the punishment fit the crime, because if I say eat crow, I'm basically saying, like, yeah, that guy who lost his child in his life, he kind of overreacted.
He kind of overdid it a little bit.
Like, he needed to calm down a little bit.
Whoa.
But the alternative is, like, yes, sending a mass of supernatural crows to completely obliterate and absorb or take to a different dimension this main villain in immense
cross dissolve.
is a
transition joke. I like that.
So I don't know. I feel like
you're like, at least he did something.
He did. He got the job done. You know, like he did. He did what he did what the crow told him to do. Like, the crows are satisfied. They even jumped in to help him out.
They got their friends.
Yeah. No, justice served.
Okay.
Good guy won at the end.
Sure, but
you can't do it.
So bad.
I actually did go eat crow here, and the reason is I keep thinking about how you made a great comment during the '94 that the flashbacks were such a nice. Usually they're a crutch, but in this situation they were
absolutely.
They were a very simple way to help move the story. They're trying to use flashbacks here because it's copy and paste, but they are hard to watch, especially the villains in the flashback. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a witness, and like, I hate that. Like, it's like,
there's also too much exposition in them. As in the first one, the reason the flashbacks worked so well is because they were very tasteful in the information they gave you and when they gave you that information. In this one, it literally was like, he's awake. Okay, what's going on? I'm going to touch this thing. Oh, here's the entire story of how I got here.
They should have just had it like 7 times.
Yeah.
They should have just had Icky Pop literally walk up to the camera and break down the floor. Like, okay, here's what happened. A guy and a kid just saw us kill a person. and we got to do something about it.
So we killed him.
We're going to go over here. There's a dock.
Yeah.
Conveniently placed. We're going to go get some chicken wire. We're going to tie him up. Just go through. That's literally what it felt like. There were a lot of flashbacks, and the first one didn't even have dialogue.
No. They
were
shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I was watching them like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But then like then you would watch the rest of the movie and it would answer the questions you had with the flashback, which was good writing.
This sparked a question and then immediately was like, here's the answer.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about this. Here's the answer.
Yeah. And it's sad to know that after you find out about all the cutting they did, like they're hand-holding us because they knew they told a bad story.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what else to do, and they couldn't do it visually because they didn't have the acting power. They didn't have David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah.
They didn't have Tony Todd. You know, they didn't have I'm trying to think some of the other fantastic or they didn't have Michael Massey. Like, they had this surplus of acting talent. They don't have the talent to deliver a nonverbal story here.
No.
So, this one ate some pretty bad crows. 6-1.
Yeah.
So I think it didn't do well here in movie wars.
Not as it should not.
Yeah.
Yes.
What if we were like, this is the like? What if we were like, this has got a full 6?
Just surprise people. What if we just surprise people? Like, this is wonderful.
This was great.
I can't wait for April Fool's Day.
Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe
we take the room and we sit there and we talk about how it's the greatest movie ever made.
The fact that Perez didn't get nominated for this. You know, he should have been Batman in the Nolan movies. You know that, right?
Absolutely.
You know that.
No, this movie does not deserve crows flying for it.
No.
The crows are upset with this movie.
Yeah.
Even they were like, this needs to be done, and that's why they just nonsensically carried the guy away.
Yeah.
They weren't carrying the guy away. They were leaving. They were like, we can't even be in this fictional world.
And I just had this thought. Yes, it was his son who was killed, but like they never do a good job making you feel connected to the son.
No.
Yeah,
he's
they
kind
have
of a mystery.
One scene. They have one scene at the beginning, which I don't know. Like, it was really like that was actually a pretty good scene where they're talking, and then he hears a noise. He's like, "Oh, let me go!" But like the dad knows this is a terrible city. Don't go out anywhere without. But the kid's like, "Oh, nothing bad ever happens in life. Let me go check out what's going on." And then he gets murdered, and you're like, "Well." Bummer.
There's just smog everywhere. Yeah.
Maybe the kid should have come back as the crow. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like Sarah. Now we get a lot of Sarah in the first one because she's one of the main characters, but I just I hate to say it, this is mean, but like I just did not give a shit about that kid.
No, not at all.
Well. You kind of forget about the kid, which then makes you not give a shit about Ash. Like, that's the thing. It's like you there is a kid, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why he's doing all this. But like the whole time you're watching, I felt like I was just observing a stranger at an airport for a little bit, and I was like, oh, well, I'll go get a bagel instead.
Looks like he's gonna get the Tootsie Rolls this time. Ooh, People Mag. Oh, he didn't go for People. Oh, it's because it's the $12.99 50th anniversary edition.
But see, that's why Sarah would have been so much of a better choice because we had a whole first movie to learn to care about her.
Yeah.
But again, I did not know until we started this podcast today that was Sarah.
They had the same white cat in his old apartment that she was luring dead people to see if they'd resurrect so that she could clothe them and
but like that's how bad of a job they did at letting us know who the characters were that I if you had not said this was Sarah, I would have been like this is just a random ass lady.
They did such a bad job that I at first thought it was Sarah, and then by the end of the movie was convinced it wasn't until we talked about it. I was like, oh, that was Sarah. Well, that makes sense.
And it's not just us. One way I study research is that sometimes I'll listen to other podcasts, and like there are other really smart movie podcast people that said the same exact thing that they had no idea. And these are like brilliant people that I admire in the industry. Like
not like these slubs that hear the movie wars podcast.
I'm like, whoa, he didn't know it was him. Jeez.
I'm not that much of an idiot, I guess.
And I think a good closing thought for this, I guess a good closing question then, based on everything we just said, is how much of this is the fact that they went after this thing 2 years after Brandon Lee died.
Yeah.
Fans are passionate about this. Fans are still we found this out last week.
Yeah.
Fans are still diehard passionate over this. The reboot showed that.
Yeah.
Imagine being 2 years removed. I mean, how much of that is kind of how good did this movie have to be to win their hearts?
Yeah.
My heart.
It's literally like trying to make Mrs. Doubtfire 2 in 2017. Like it just would have been a horrible decision.
Yeah. Like going out and get some random like comedian and that's not Robin Williams and Robin Williams is dead, died tragically, and I can see that. Yeah.
And then you just come in with Jared Leto and it's like, why? What are we doing here?
I felt like there was nothing about the sequel that needed to happen. Yeah. They didn't like, it was not, because you read online that they say that like, oh, we're going to do it in a respectful way that honors the previous movie and Brandon Lee. Well, if they tried to do that, they failed. I'm telling myself that they just didn't mean what they were saying, because somehow to me that gives them more respect.
Yeah.
Or like, after my honest opinion, knowing that there were so many movies after the first one, I was like, first one didn't need a sequel. Like,
It genuinely could have ended with that first one, and it would have been a perfect cult classic movie.
Yeah, and I'm covering the Mad Max series with Matthew Blevins, and one thing that Miller talks about is that it's intentional that each movie feels like a campfire retelling, which is why they're not necessarily like, you never really know the chronology. A lot of people have kind of mapped it out.
Yeah, that's fun.
But you really don't know, and that's why Max is kind of different in each movie too, because it's almost like there's a person at a campfire telling the mystical story of. Yeah. And they really do a good job orchestrating that in the Mad Max series. But here, like this as just a random entry. Yeah. It's supposed to be 8 years after the first one, technically. It's like
you don't know.
Yeah. It's like this did not have yeah.
And at least with the next one, when we talk about it, like it follows
next week's podcast.
Yeah, next week, check us out. At least it follows like the Crow storyline. Like it's a new story, but with like the same elements. Like it's in the same. Last week, what you said I thought was really cool is like when you watch a movie, right from the beginning, you realize like the rules of the universe. Yeah, right. Yeah. And so like at least with the second or the third one, it fits in the rules of the universe. This one, it honestly felt like we just like found a couple guys at Walmart and like let's just throw together a quick Crow reboot. Yeah, it felt like the reboot that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, man. And before we sign off, you said you had some shows.
Yeah, if anyone's in the Nashville area, the Franklin area, this Thursday, I have a new show at the Bugonaut Pig in Franklin. It will be every Thursday at 7 p.m. And then on Friday, we're doing a show at Boombaws in East Nashville, which is at 8 p.m. And if you want to check out more information on any of that, just go to Drew Davis Comedy on literally anything, and you'll find where I put show information. So.
Beautiful.
November 4th, I got a show over in 12 South in Nashville at Marine Layer, so y'all come out.
Beautiful. Cool. Thank you for hanging out. Next week, we're going to do the Crow Salvation. And
shockingly, I have better things to say about that movie than this one.
Well, come back next week. We'll be nicer.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's funny watching these all in succession because I had seen them all over the course of time, but now like doing it for the podcast, it's like it's interesting.
Yeah.
So, but we'll be seeing you, Sugar Plum. Love y'all. I'm Kyle.
Seth.
Drew. See ya.
Hasta luego.
Movie War.